Right, now for the latest on the US vote, we're now joined by our correspondent Sherwin Bricebees, who's live in New York, and he's in Harlem, I believe. Sherwin, give us an update of what's happening where you are.
Peter, a steady stream of voters at this polling station in Harlem. We are seeing that around the country as voters are really excited, enthusiastic to get this election behind them. As you heard in that piece, this has been a divisive campaign. It has been a long campaign, 18 months and counting. So whether you're working inside a campaign or at a polling station, or if you're just an ordinary voter or a journalist, there's an element of fatigue as it relates to this election. So people are really happy to get through today, and hopefully with a result by the end of it. I am now joined by political analyst here in New York, and I imagine very familiar face to South Africans, Professor Shaun Jacobs. He's with the International Relations School in International Affairs at the New School here in New York, and a former political analyst with the Institute for Democracy in South Africa. Shaun, welcome. Good to see you. This has been a long process. We can finally see the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's the end of at least a 2-year campaign period, which is very unusual in terms of elections anywhere in the world. I think in most other places like 90 days, in some places a month, but it's a long, arduous process. I think most people believe that we don't have the best candidates on either side, but we have what we have.
It's interesting, we've seen the campaigns and their surrogates spending a lot of time in these swing states. Last night we saw the royalty of US politics, if you will, the Obamas, the Clintons together on stage at a huge rally in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. What do you make of the closing arguments both of these campaigns are making today? And let's drop your hands.
I think if you think Hillary Clinton, I think, wants to present a sort of multicultural USA, a continuation of the Obama legacy. Donald Trump is saying that the country is broken, that the USA is not a superpower anymore, it's not a muscular state, and that what he would do is bring that back. He would get respect back for the US. Whether that is those are the facts, that's not important. It's about perception. And people who want to vote for Trump, they look at the US as a country that's failing, that's going down. People who vote for Hillary Clinton see her either as the continuation of Obama and also something new, that this will be historical, and they would see a woman elected as president.
But Hillary Clinton, for example, has not denied the fact that she wants to extend the legacy. She believes that there's been a great deal of progress achieved under the Obama administration, of which she was part of as Secretary of State for 4 years. She does believe that this is a continuation of his legacy, and so does he. This is about passing the torch, isn't it?
No, it definitely is. I mean, I think in a while Americans will realize that they had an extraordinary moment with Barack Obama, and in a sense, it's like going from Mandela to Mbeki. You have somebody extraordinary, somebody who is much more than just a technocrat and who represents a country at many different levels, and then any other politician, regardless of how good they are going to pale in significance to the sort of, if you want, a figure like Obama. And that's part of Hillary Clinton's problem. It doesn't help that she seems to be very naive around security questions, issues around, the whole email debacle that happened here, the questions around the NGO, massive NGO run by her husband, and some of the accountability around that. That doesn't help. Whether she's done anything criminal, again, it's all about perception. The FBI, after saying she did nothing criminal, then decided to reopen the case, then announced again she did nothing criminal. But for a Trump supporter, they will see this as a kind of, they had distrust of Obama, and they see Hillary Clinton as kind of part of that, and it won't help for all the stuff that she's done. But I think it's very difficult to see Trump winning.
But let's talk a little bit about his candidacy. It has been historic in many ways, unprecedented in many ways. Any political scientist or any political pundit you spoke to when he announced his candidacy would have told you that they never expected him to get this far. What does his success in this election speak to? What does it tell us about the United States?
Well, it says that traditionally the two political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, monopolize the political space when it comes to the election of the president or offices like senators and representatives, the House of Representatives, stateside, mayors, etc. What Trump has done it's new in a way, and it's also a continuation of something that's happened before. Ross Perot in 1992 was an outsider like that. I think Bernie Sanders, even though he's part of the Democratic Party's caucus within Congress, in the Senate, he's also seen as a kind of an outsider. He's a socialist, and he also tried to change it. So in a way, there are some similarities between the kind of politics that, the kind of campaign that Bernie ran from the outside with what Trump ran. But Trump is something else also. He's there's no other way to say it, but like the employee of racist rhetoric, very much, fascistic rhetoric. And misogyny, and going for, I think, like some of the baser, emotions of white American, especially working class, poor white American voters, for like the bad side of that, like having the Ku Klux Klan endorse him, white nationalists. So this is something that I think American politics haven't seen, say, since the 1960s. Or to some extent, Ronald Reagan, even though he was a better campaigner, he also flirted with some of that politics. But yeah, there's definitely something different about somebody coming from the outside, not needing the money of, like, say, another candidate who had to, like, say, bow or be beholden to special interests. Trump has his own money, and he could use that. Plus, he has an outsized personality as a sort of, he's a businessman. He presented this idea of, like, I'm outside politics, and I'm coming to fix politics. And for some people, that represented something new.
We're seeing a lot of campaigns in the last few days spending a lot of their political capital in the battleground states, the swing states. We've seen early voting record numbers, Latino turnout in Florida, places like Nevada. Why are the swing states so important?
I think if you're a South African, you're wondering, like, what is that about this, the idea of the swing states? Well, it's basic. Think about, in South Africa, there are 9 provinces. There's the local government elections is probably the better argument. It's thinking about Gauteng, Nelson Mandela Bay, and not so much Cape Town anymore, but Nelson Mandela Bay and Gauteng were up for grabs in the last local election. In South Africa, the election at the provincial level, at the national level, where there's often like a volatile electorate until recently, was the Western Cape. That's not the case anymore. So think about a battleground state or a swing state is something like that. The Democrats know that they can take New York, where we're standing right now, and this is New York State. They'll get all these votes. They'll probably get California. But then there are states like Florida, which will be a swing state with a large number of electoral votes. Ohio is the second one. Pennsylvania, Virginia, Nevada. So at the end of the day, it's about you have to get 270 electoral votes to become president. Whoever gets there first wins the election. All the states, if you win a state, you get all the electoral votes of that state.
Right.
There's only 2 states where they apportion the votes by proportional representation. I think it's Maine
and Nebraska.
Yeah, Nebraska. Yeah.
So we are at the closing stages of this election. I mean, we'll probably get the results later today. Speak to this notion that this is a very divided country. Donald Trump has his supporters. Hillary Clinton has her supporters. What is the task of being president come Wednesday morning, or president-elect certainly?
I mean, the idea of a president is that a president is sort of above, well, not necessarily, you could say, like, totally outside of politics, but he's above this kind of party political, infighting, the rhetoric. He has to unite the country. It is anybody with a little bit of political knowledge can tell you that it's highly unlikely that Donald Trump will unite this country. People actually forget when George Bush was elected in 2000, after that, the events in Florida where the Supreme Court had to certify the election, and some people would argue gave him the election.
Right.
His inauguration was accompanied by people protesting, throwing, eggs at his car. So this will be very different. If Donald Trump gets elected, this is going to be very different from when, say, a Barack Obama in 2008 or 2012. The sense is that Hillary Clinton has much more of the support of this country, maybe by like at least 10%, but she definitely has more support than Donald Trump.
Sean, what we don't talk about, when we look back at the 2008 election and the historic nature of Barack Obama's campaign, no one really talks about the historic nature of the first woman president leading a major political party in this country into the election. As a final question, how historic is this moment for women everywhere in the world?
It's incredible. I mean, there's been other countries in the world that have elected women as presidents or prime ministers. In Africa, Banda, in Malawi, there's a number. Even South Africa might even at some point have a woman.
Much younger democracies than this one, though.
Much younger democracies than this one. So it's an extraordinary thing. White men have always, you have to be white, male, college educated, be from the Northeast, or occasionally a southern state like Bill Clinton. And to have a woman go through this arduous 2-year process and emerge on the other side of it as the candidate for a political party, and the sense is that she has the balance of the votes and the balance of the support. The majority of the people in this country are willing her to win this election. So it's definitely going to be historic.
Sean Jacobs, thanks very much indeed. Sean Jacobs, an Associate Professor of International Affairs at the New School here in New York, is also the founder and editor of Africa is a Country. Africa is a Country, a website that provides you with opinion and analysis on a variety of issues. Speaking to us here as we close out this election cycle. We'll have results by early morning South African time. It's back to you in studio.
Sherwin, thank you very much indeed. That's Sherwin Bryce-Pease, of course, who's in Harlem, which is north of Manhattan Island in New York, just above Central Park, or on the side of Central Park towards the north.